21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Hi, everyone. My name's Andy Harris. I'm President of North American Strategies and Managing Director with STS Capital. Which stands for helping entrepreneurs and privately held business owners achieve greater success to significance, STS, through selling to strategics, STS. We're an international sell-side advisory firm. We help privately held business owners, entrepreneurs, achieve what we call an extraordinary exit. And that is getting them the desired and required outcomes that they would like to achieve through a sale of their business, whether it be a majority or a minority. And then also getting maximum valuation, making sure they're being paid maximum value, which comes from strategic value versus just a base market or financial value. One of the reasons our firm is so good at what we do is because of the backgrounds of our managing directors. We are not traditional investment bankers. We don't come off of Wall Street. We're not a transactional investment banker. We all know M&A inside and out because we did it in our careers. And in my case, I was a three-time hired gun CEO, where I did 3 different buy and build roll-ups. That were there were 3 different firms backed by 3 different private equity firms. And I did international roll-ups during those three businesses, did over 20 acquisitions around the world, and then did 6 exits. 4 were outright exits and 2 were divestitures, where we divested a division that just wasn't a strategic fit for us. But all of those were strategic and with exceptional outcomes. So I learned M&A by doing it, and I've been in the shoes and the seat of a CEO and what it's like to have to run and lead a business on a day-to-day basis. But then also, very importantly, how do you prepare a business for exit and all the things that you have to do that, and what are all the various value drivers. And when you're building a business that's backed by private equity, there's a playbook. The day they buy the first business, they're focused on their exit in 3 to 5 to 7 years. And so what do you do to prepare a business for exit? And then very importantly is, how do you exit the business? Getting through the process of actually successfully closing and exiting the business. So that's why STS is very good at what we do, because we've been in the shoes of our clients, and we're experts at the journey of preparing for an exit and then ultimately achieving the exit at maximum strategic valuation. There's a couple big mistakes that I see founders make. And the biggest one would be what I call founder risk, and that the business is about them. And if something were to happen to them tomorrow, the business wouldn't be able to function the same, and would potentially fail or just have some very hard times. So doing everything the founder can to get rid of founder risk, put in a proper leadership team, make sure there's succession, and it should be very evident that the founder's not running the business on a day-to-day basis. Maybe very involved with strategy, still with customer relationships or any types of relationships. The culture of the firm and all that is still very important, but we need to be able to demonstrate that the business could run itself and runs itself without the founder. That's probably the single biggest mistake founders make, is that the business is about them, and there's too much risk for a buyer. one of the other big mistakes I see, especially if people are planning for an exit, is taking that time to step back and really understand, why do you want to exit? What's the goal of exiting? And really going deep in that. What's the purpose? What's the why? Why is it meaningful? What are you trying to achieve? Is it you need to bring a partner on with the business and you're trying to really raise some capital and scale to the next level? Is it, no, you really want an outright exit, you need to leave the business? And in that case, then I'd say really need to understand, okay, why do you want to leave the business? And what do you want to do post-exit, right? What's your life going to look like post-exit? And really paint that picture. So that's another really key element of what to do. But I think a lot of people approach an exit, either it's kind of last minute and it's like, oh my gosh, I have to sell the business, and they weren't ready. They haven't really thought about their purpose or the why or what life looks like afterwards. So that's another thing that I think is a mistake that people can make. And then the third big area is many business owners aren't planning for an exit. They're thinking, oh, I'll sell the business. It's a long ways from now. It's 5 years, it's 7 years, it's 10 years from now, maybe longer than that. It's still, I think, things can change, things happen. And you really want to be in a position where if all of a sudden you had to sell your business next year, it's already been built for an exit, and you've been doing the right things, and you've been doing the things that are going to add value and make the business still attractive to a buyer. So it's never too early to start planning for the exit. And by not planning for an exit, you never know, things can change, and all of a sudden you need to do the exit and you're like, oh wow, it's just not going to turn out the way I ever would have wanted it to, because I wasn't building it for an exit. And I think best practice is to build for an exit, and it's never too early to start. There are two different approaches as you build your business. One is you're actually building it for an exit, and you're beginning with the end in mind. And as an example, really that's kind of what private equity does. When they buy a business, they buy it with a theme or a thesis of what they're going to do to it to help professionalize it and grow it and scale it, with an exit in mind in the next 3 to 5 to 7 years. And that's why a lot of private equity businesses are very successful. They're building it for an exit. If you're a private entrepreneur, I don't see anything wrong with doing that as well. It forces things, maybe puts a sense of urgency on some things. You're definitely looking at what are the key value drivers that aren't in place that you need to be putting in place. Bring advisors in to help you think about what's going to make your business so attractive to buyers in some point in time, and who are those buyers. And it's maybe buyers in your space, or it's buyers that are in adjacencies. And many times those adjacent buyers are the ones that will come up and pay the most, because you're worth so much to them. They can transform your business can transform theirs. And then 1 + 1 = 3 or 4 or 5. And that's what strategic values or deals are about, and that's what gets strategic valuation. But I think if you're thinking about that early and you're beginning with that in mind to build your business for those types of buyers and what's going to be attractive to them, that's a great way to go. The other way would be, I'm not building my business for an exit. I'm building it for my life, and maybe I'll leave it on to my children and then their children, and we just want to build a really great solid business. I think that you can do both in the same way. Just one is there is no exit. But if you've done it in the same way, if a situation changes, at least you are prepared for an exit, or better prepared for an exit than you would have otherwise been. Talking about other areas, I think where founders can make a mistake, or a business owner can make a mistake. Many times business owners believe that they can sell the business on their own and they don't need an investment banker or a sell-side advisor to do that for them. And while it is possible to sell your business on your own, and people do it, statistics say that maybe 50% or more of deals that a founder tries to do it on their own don't end up transacting. It just never ends up selling. Or when it does sell, there's so many dollars left on the table. And it's really important to have an advisor to help, first of all, make sure the business is properly prepared for exit, go out and run a competitive process, get targeted buyers at the table that are going to view the business strategically. And strategic values typically are 30%, 50%, 100 or 200% more than a typical financial value or an industry value. So an industry might be trading at, let's say it's 6 to 8 times EBITDA or 8 to 10 times EBITDA. That's the financial value in that industry. But to a strategic, either in that industry or in an adjacency, your business might be worth twice that to them in terms of how it will help change their business and how they may be able to grow and scale your business. And so that's strategic value, well above and beyond financial value. And the way you get that strategic value is also to create competitive tension and have buyers that would either very much like to have your business and ideally must have your business. They really need to have your business for strategic reasons. And if you can get at least a few of those involved in the process, now you create competitive tension, and it's possible to move offers up. And it's difficult to do that yourself as an owner. It's much easier for an advisor to do that, or an investment banker to do that, and to create that competitive tension. And by having an advisor in running the process, that sends a message to all the buyers that this is a process. There's international outreach. There's high level of interest in the business. There's many buyers that have been outreached to, and so naturally competition occurs. And then when offers come in, if they're not at the level that we know where the business is strategically valued to them, we can say this is a competitive process, and if you want to win, your offer is going to need to be here, because here's what we think that the strategic value of the business is. And all you're doing then is getting a buyer to pay for the business what it's worth to them, to get a beautiful strategic fit and a beautiful strategic combination to occur that's for their benefit, and then also for the benefit of your business that you're selling. So it really is a win-win, and you're just getting a buyer to pay for that. Strategic and financial buyers are going to look at a business initially in a very similar way. It's going to start with a financial valuation. And if you wanted to get real sophisticated, you do a discounted cash flow and really bring everything back to a value, right? At the end of the day, that's what multiples do. A multiple in a particular industry, maybe it's 6 times, 8 times, 9 times. That's already taking into account growth rates in the industry, typical margins in the industry. It's kind of a fast way of getting there, and it works. So I'll say, in the case of the book we wrote, The Extraordinary Exit, this was called Project Ebenezer, and our client had built the business, and he'd built it largely for an exit by design. He had an idea of where he thought the business would sell for, the price it would sell for. He and his dad had another similar business earlier, and his dad had sold that. So he had an idea of the business valuation, what it was worth. We did our market assessment, looked at it, and said, okay, here's businesses of your size, of what you're doing. Here's where they're trading. And the numbers were, we were in alignment, we were in agreement. When we ran the process, we had a lot of different buyers come in. And even though there were some that were strategic that and knew the business would be valuable to them, that it was this, 1+1 would equal 3 or 4 or 5 with them, they still came in around financial value. Maybe they paid a little bit of a premium, and I think some of those offers came in at a 20 or 30% premium over where we thought the financial value was, and where our client Jonathan, where he thought the business would sell for. Then we started the competitive tension, and they had to compete to win, and the business ended up closing 100% over the base financial market value. And so it was 2 times the industry market multiple, 2 times what our seller thought the business would sell for. And that was because it was strategic value created. And a pure financial buyer, there isn't that strategic value. They're just buying it because this is the EBITDA the business earns. This is how it's going to grow. We're going to do some acquisitions. We're buying it at 6x or 8x, and we're going to sell once we get bigger at 9 or 10x, and that's how we make money. But it's a financial model, and it has nothing to do with really great strategic value. And in this case, the reason there was strategic value was because the buyer of the business was a supplier to the industry, but they were not supplying our client. And so by buying our client, they got 100% of the materials that they needed, and it was a steel manufacturing business. So they were able to supply the steel, and so they went from 0 with this business to now they've got all of it. And what this business manufactured, their strategy was to duplicate manufacturing facilities around the United States where their locations were, and they were a steel distributor. So they wanted to put manufacturing at all of their steel distribution sites. And in this case, the business was pre-engineered metal buildings. And so they wanted to manufacture pre-engineered metal buildings and metal components at their sites so they could scale it very rapidly across the United States. And obviously, as it scaled, they supplied all that steel. So it was a win-win, and there was real strategic value created there. Selling a business or prepping a business for an exit and then running through that exit process is truly a journey. And it's got a lot of roller coasters, ups and downs, and you need to be prepared emotionally for it. And some of that, the best way to do that, once again, is to get back to your why and your purpose and stay aligned and stay grounded in what that was. But also, if there are other shareholders involved or stakeholders, let's say it's family members or whatever, make sure that you have alignment with them going into the process as well. And in one of the stories we share in the book was a family held business that was being the father and mother started the business decades ago, did a very nice job of building and leading the business. And then about 8 years ago, they brought in their second generation to be the president and to run the business, and did a really good job of doing that. So they took founder risk off the table. It was very evident that the founder was not running the business on a day-to-day basis. Their second generation was running it and doing a very good job of running it. And then they decided that they wanted to exit the business, right? but the founder still truly loved the business. This was still his baby. And as we went through the process, we started the process with the founder and his wife telling us what their required and preferred outcomes were. The second generation also what were their required and preferred outcomes, and they were largely in alignment. None of them were opposed to one another. So it was possible to find a buyer and run a process where everybody could kind of win. The second generation's win was he wanted to stay on the business and keep running it. The founder and his wife, their outcome was, well, we want to go into the golden ages of our life and go enjoy ourselves. We want to give back. We want philanthropy. We just really want to go and enjoy our life. As we got close to closing, the founder started getting was still so emotionally attached to the business. And he was like, I don't know if I want to sell. I don't know if I want to sell. And then he started his asks started going up. He's like, well, now if I'm going to sell, I got to have this. I got to have, and some of his asks were not reasonable, right? And the buyer that was involved here felt like, hey, he's retrading on us. We've agreed to a deal, and now he's trying to change things at the last minute, right? And he finally did say, I'm done, and we're not selling the business, and they're not giving me what I want. And they did give him everything he wanted from the beginning, but then he started changing it at the end, and he was just involved in the emotions of selling the business. And I remember there was a Sunday afternoon that I had a meeting with he and his wife. And I said, hey, remember all the required and preferred outcomes we went through a year ago? Every single one of your boxes is checked. You have the offer that you asked us to get, and at a premium value. And he said, yeah, but I don't know. And then his wife said, we decided to sell this business so we could go into our golden years together. And he looked at her, and it's like he needed to hear that. And all of a sudden he just got relieved, and the emotions, everything went away. And he said, all right, great, we're going, let's go. So, but it's a journey, it's an emotional process, and you have to be grounded in, once again, what is your why and purpose for doing it, and making sure all stakeholders are aligned, and that each of them are going to be able to hopefully largely achieve what they all want to get out of it as well. And I think multi-generational businesses are probably some of the more difficult businesses to go through that journey and come out on the other side aligned, where everybody's largely happy with what they've achieved. For business owners that would expect to have an exit value of at least $30 million up to $1 billion, that's the sweet spot that we play in, and we're very good at assisting business owners in that range. Even if it's still years away, we don't mind getting involved early. In fact, I like getting involved early, and then just kind of help identify what are the things that would be most valuable to do in the business over the next several years to best prepare for an exit, and then and help be a thought leader and give those ideas and give some consultative advice, if you will, to a business owner who's thinking about an exit down the road. Well, I'm happy to be a resource to anyone who's thinking about an exit. And the best way to get in touch with us or me, our website is stscapital.com, or you can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn.
'21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.